Are you wondering how to manage a 25-year-old guy at the office? If this question is hitting home to you, please stay tuned. I have an interview that I would love to be able to share with you on our Business Vitality podcast. But first, my name is Catherine Cantey. I am an executive coach and a podcast host of Business Vitality. And I just had a really great conversation with Kevin Palmieri. He has a business by the name of Next Level University. He shares what is going on in that 25-year-old brain because he was there about 10 years ago and he was making the six figures. He was doing phenomenal work and something changed. And so we talk about what's going on when we're managing the 25-year-old self. Also, he talks about how confidence works at that point, how confidence grows throughout the growth of the career. And he also talks about how to build trust, but not just build trust, but how to accelerate building trust. And something that I found very interesting is he went from working in a corporate environment, working for a company, to pivoting and actually starting to podcast every single day of the week. 7 days a week, he's been podcasting, recording, making mistakes, learning along the way. And if anybody wants to teach how to grow and create change, he's going to be able to do it because he's able to accelerate through it so much faster than the rest of us who maybe do a podcast once a week or every other week. So it was such a gift to be able to talk with Kevin Palmieri. He is with Next Level University. I would love for you to stay tuned and just listen to a portion of this incredible interview that we had together. Again, if you're interested and want to learn more about the work that we're doing, we actually work with teams, we work with individuals, and we create measured leadership change. We do that using practical applications. Because we use practical applications, we are able to accelerate results. So I couldn't help but love the conversation with Kevin because it kind of builds on a lot of the work that we're doing here. And if you're wondering if we might be a good fit together, reach out to me at catherinecantey.com. Send me a message. I would love to hear from you just to be able to brainstorm. Some great stuff usually happens for a brainstorming session. And a lot of times the calls start with, hey, Catherine, I don't know if you can help, but let's take a phone call. Let's hear what we can do and just be able to learn from each other. And if I can't help, I'll be able to make a recommendation to somebody else. So, so stay tuned. Here is a portion of the interview with Kevin, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Thanks. Kevin Palmieri, you are the founder and CFO of Next Level University, found on the web at nextleveluniverse.com. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I am excited to chat and see where we go today.
This is going to be fun. You have such a impressive background, and we can take this conversation a lot of different ways. But before I start asking a whole lot of questions, I would love for you to explain at a very high level. Tell me about Next Level University and what you do with that.
Yeah, so Next Level University is not only a podcast that we do 7 times a week, so we do an episode every single day for our community, but it is a business that our real thought is, if you don't have money, but you want to be into self-improvement, we have the podcast. If you have a little bit of money and you want coaching, we have that. So the real goal for us, Catherine, is no matter what your financial situation or your self-improvement set point is, there's somewhere for you. That's our ultimate goal here.
I appreciate that. So tell me, how did you find this? You've shared your background a little bit on the internet, but for people that are new to you, Kevin, just kind of talk about, if you don't mind, that journey that kind of led you here. Because everybody who's in self-improvement, we all have the story that supports it. And I think yours is unique. So if you don't mind.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it usually comes from pain. Unfortunately, I didn't set it up that way, but that seems to be the way it works. So the quickest version is, when I graduated high school, I knew I didn't want to go to college. I didn't know why, but I just knew it wasn't for me. So I ended up working odd jobs for several years. I ended up getting this very unique job opportunity in an industry called weatherization. So we would go into buildings and make them more energy efficient. Since I was working for the state and government at times, I made anywhere from $60 to $120 an hour. So I was like, oh my God, I made it. Like, this is it. So if you zoom in on Kevin at 25, my girlfriend was a model. I had a sports car. I had just won a bodybuilding show. So I was in the best shape of my life. I had money. Everything seemed really good, but my internal state and my external state were drastically different. I was insecure. I was not confident. I was afraid of my own shadow. And eventually that came to bite me in the butt because my girlfriend left me and I ended up falling into a depression. I thought making more money was the only way to fix myself. So I went all in on making money. And that next year, I spent 10 months on the road, just traveling up and down the East Coast of the US, working, because most of our contracts were on the road. Made $100,000 that year, thought that was going to fix my life. And I realized that for that year and most of my life, I had lived unconsciously, just kind of gliding through life, hoping things were going to work out. The opposite of unconscious was hyperconscious. So I started a podcast called the Hyperconscious Podcast, fell in love with podcasting as I fell out of love with my job, couldn't leave my job because I needed the money. So I ended up sitting on the edge of a bed debating suicide shortly thereafter because I felt so stuck and so trapped and like there was nowhere else for me to go. And I'd be starting over and I'd be letting so many people down. But I ended up leaving my job and then going full time into what we're doing today and figuring out how to grow a business as a broke entrepreneur.
Your story is thank you for sharing your story.
Of course.
It's pretty special. And I feel like, I'm going to kind of turn it just a little bit. I want to ask a different question. There's a lot of amazing, technical colleges that are out there. There's a lot of high school students that I've worked with in the past, and they just go and they make decisions and they decide what they want to do with their life. And not everybody's got to go to college to figure this out. Like my favorite banker that I love to work with, she won't tell anybody, but she has a high school education. And she was like, don't tell everybody. And I was like, okay, but she's amazing. And like, you don't have to have all these degrees to do great work.
Yeah.
And so you jumped right into the workforce and you did what worked for you. And, sometimes we are groomed to think that we have to make all this money and money equals happiness. What do you say to, and I've got a couple folks that come to mind, early 20s, they're working all the time. They want to make the six figures. They're at the six figures and they're spending the money as fast as it's coming in because nobody's really talked to them about money. What do you say to those people, or what do you say to yourself then that you wish you knew as you've studied all this self-improvement and just been down this amazing path?
Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. I would say this. I do believe money can buy momentary bouts of happiness. I do. If you buy a nice car, you're going to feel happy. You're going to get a dopamine spike for a short amount of time. The one thing money cannot buy is fulfillment. And that is what I think we are all after as human beings. But this is the thing. It's very hard to recognize fulfillment in others. So when we turn on the TV and we see mansions and cars and relationships and bodies and jewelry, we have this assumption that that person is happy. They might be happy. It does not suggest, though, that that person is fulfilled. I think happiness is a result. If this interview goes well and you like me, I will be happy. Regardless of how it goes, I should be fulfilled because I'm in the process of purpose, I'm in the process of growth, and I'm in the process of evolution. So what I would tell myself is setting goals and accomplishing goals is great. And that might give you bouts of happiness, but happiness is not sustainable. Fulfillment is. I'm more fulfilled on a journey that I most likely will never accomplish with the goals that we have than I used to be before. So for me, it was reshifting the target from happiness, if then, to fulfillment, just being on purpose and being aligned and doing what you love and doing what you feel you're supposed to be doing.
Okay. So many people are seeking happiness in this world to the point that I met with one of my mentors and friends, Marshall Goldsmith, a few months ago, and he's phenomenal, written tons of books, just amazing success. And he told me who he's working with now. And these are amazing people, live in Dubai and have lives that look amazing. And I said, well, what do you work with them on? And he said, Catherine, they have everything in this world. The one thing they don't have is happiness. I'm working with these people to help them find happiness. And so for you to realize this early in, and happiness and fulfillment are two different things. I don't know if listeners can really understand the fact that happiness is that moment thing, but fulfillment and understanding that life is the journey and the journey is like what we're here for. We're just not trying to accomplish another check the box, opportunity. How does somebody at no matter what stage they're at themselves, they're growing themselves. How do you even begin to define fulfillment? And they're like, what is even fulfillment? I thought I was supposed to be chasing happiness, myself included. I went down that path, but it is fulfillment and like what it is. But how do you find fulfillment? Where do you start? Is there a book? What helped you find fulfillment?
Yeah, that is a great question. It wasn't about me. The best thing I can frame it as is when I started the podcast, it wasn't about me. I had no idea how to make money, to a detriment. I wasn't focused on that. I was focused on, if I have a great conversation and somebody is impacted, awesome. Like, I'm doing something good. So fulfillment, I think you find it by not doing what you like, but doing something that you're always grateful you did after. I think that is such a unique perspective, where I love Netflix as much as the next person. My wife and I worked a 12, 13-hour day yesterday. We watched an hour of Netflix. Netflix can make me happy. But if I watch Netflix for 12 hours, I am not going to be fulfilled, because I'm going to regret it. So I would say, if you can ask yourself a simple question, what do I want to do that I know makes me feel good, but I don't regret after? That's question one. Question two is, what is something I don't really want to do, but I know I'll be grateful I did after? The gym is a great example, right? Like, it's fulfilling to pour into your own health, but it kind of sucks. It kind of sucks when the alarm goes off. But if you're always grateful you did it, you're on the path to fulfillment. And the last thing I would say, Catherine, is you have to reflect on your past. What are the things that you were always drawn to? Like, one of the examples I use, my business partner's girlfriend went to the Great Barrier Reefs. She found out the Great Barrier Reefs are a Great Barrier Cemetery, unfortunately. And that became part of her purpose. So will she be fulfilled if she is adding value to the environment? Yes, because she believes she's on a quest to improve something that in reality will never actually get finished. I think that's kind of a good measure for fulfillment.
I love these questions. And if I heard this correctly, I want to make sure I captured it right, because I'm taking notes. But you're doing things that do make you feel good, and things that you don't want to necessarily do. But at the very end of it, you feel good at the end of it, whether it's going to the gym, which I got on the Peloton this morning, didn't want to, but I was like, I'm going to make time, because I know mentally I feel better after I get off of that. And then also finding the things that are of interest to you. And it sounds like intentionality, and then intentionally working that into your calendar and working it into your life. And then the whole reflection on the past is so important. Whether it's on yourself or whether it's on your business, we've got to reflect on what were the highs and what were the lows, and what do we do from there. This is kind of fun being able to talk about this. And you talk about in the beginning that maybe you were lacking some confidence, and I think it's rare to hear a guy talk about how they lacked confidence, because I see guys all over the place, and I'm like, if he gets one more ounce of confidence, I don't know, his head might explode because he's overconfident. Do you mind talking about confidence, and like, how do you find confidence? Because I've talked to women about it, and it's one thing, but I would love to hear your perspective, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's a very simple concept that's very hard to execute. Usually you have to figure out, what is your comfort zone, what is your learning zone, and what is your anxiety zone. And you have to find a way to constantly reach your learning zone. So all this means is, for many of us, we have determined that, fill in the blank, I cannot do blank because I'm afraid of blank. That becomes a contract that we have with ourselves. It becomes a fence. That fear becomes a fence that we are never willing to overcome, because we've worked it up as this monster in the closet when it's really a sock. So when you force yourself to do one small step towards that, then you build that confidence. Right? Then you can say, okay, I'm a little bit outside of my comfort zone. What I thought might go terribly wrong didn't. Now I have proof. I always say this: you have to look at the most recent and relevant proof. Now, for many people, the most recent relevant proof is walking up to the edge of the cliff and realizing, can't do it. That's actually making that cycle worse, right? You're kind of forming a confidence conundrum there. So it sounds overly simplistic, but it's okay. What is one fear? Let's just say it's heights. Okay, I'm afraid of heights. Cool. Let's break that down to don't go to the top of the mountain. Don't go bungee jumping. Don't go skydiving. Maybe you go climb up a ladder, something simple like that. I know it might not seem like that crosses over to confidence. I think confidence, true confidence, is the belief of one's own competence. And the more experienced you are in life and the more things you try, I think that's really where it comes from. Confidence is the knowing that you'll figure it out even if it goes wrong. And if it does go wrong, it's not the end of the world, and it doesn't mean you're a terrible person. And maybe in the future we'll do a longer episode, because there's like self-belief and self-worth. Those are often misconstrued when they're very different things. So there's a lot that goes into it.
I love that. And I love that you simplify it, because a lot of the work that we do, we just get back down to the practical applications of like, how can we find the MVP, minimal viable product or solution, and just go step out there and take a chance. And yeah, if you are scared of heights, start with something small and build that momentum, like what you're saying. And it is a mental mind block at times, thinking we're telling ourselves we can't do it. And then when we dig deeper, we probably find out, this was just a limiting belief that was passed on to us from somebody else.
Yeah.
Because we don't know any different until we learn or hear this from the people that are surrounding us.
Yeah. Most people were afraid of what they're doing today. They just kept going.
Yeah.
I was afraid of podcasting at the beginning, but now I have 1,300 episodes. So it seems people say like, oh, you're so confident. I've just done this so many times. This is just normal. When you're normal, when something you are terrified of becomes your normal in a positive light, then you're probably going to become confident there. It's just the reps.
Life is all about the reps, isn't
100%.
it? And the journey. I love that. Okay. So this reminds me of some leaders that I was working with, and, you're having to take chances, and you're putting yourself out there in business and life and everywhere. And you shared a little bit before about improving decision-making and being able to just go in there. Thank you so much for being here and being able to listen to Kevin's story. I think it is totally fascinating. I love to be able to get different people's perspectives. And where are we at 25? Where are we at 35? Where are we at 45 and beyond? We begin to grow, we begin to change, we begin to see different things. And I love the fact that he can accelerate through change. And it takes a lot of courage to be able to do that. If you are just tuning into this, my name is Catherine Cantey. I'm an executive coach and a podcast host of Business Vitality. If you like this interview format, feel free to reach out to us. Also, check us out on all the major podcast platforms that are out there. The podcast is called Business Vitality. My name is Catherine Cantey. I'm the host. I'm also an executive coach. I work with teams and individuals to create measured leadership change. 100% of our clients have been able to create the success based off of the goals that they set. We help create measured leadership change. We do that because we use practical applications. Because we use practical applications, we're able to accelerate the results. If you're curious, you want to learn more, you want to continue the conversation, reach out to us at catherinecantey.com, schedule a call. I would love to hear from you, and thank you so much for being here.